Welcome to the deep dive. So if you've been following along, you know we've looked at a lot of the early challenges the Sangha faced. Things like rival teachers, criticism from outside, just the sheer difficulty of growing so fast.
Right, lots of external pressures.
Mhm.
But today, we're shifting focus completely. We're looking inward. We're going deep into a conflict that, well, it almost tore the Sangha apart from the inside. The story of Devadatta's Schism.
And this isn't just some, historical detail. It's a huge cautionary tale, really. It shows how basic human stuff, ambition, jealousy, pride can mess things up, even for people supposedly on a high spiritual path.
Exactly. It shows how that sense of I, the ego, if you don't watch it, can become this massive internal threat.
So our mission today really is to unpack this whole saga, understand Devadatta's, his downfall, but also the Buddha's way of handling it, the betrayal, the division.
And ultimately, what it tells us about the Sangha's resilience. You're going to see just how destructive needing status can be.
Okay, so let's start with Devadatta himself. He wasn't an outsider, right? He was actually family.
That's a key point. The sources say he was the Buddha's cousin and his brother-in-law. He joined the Sangha quite early on, not long after the Buddha's enlightenment.
Wow, so really close time.
Very close.
Gotcha.
And importantly, he wasn't like a beginner struggling along. He was dedicated initially. The text even mentioned he developed some psychic or supernatural abilities through his meditation.
So on paper, he looked like a pretty advanced practitioner.
Absolutely. Which makes it turn so dramatic.
So what happened? If he had powers, was on the path, where did it go wrong? What was the turning point?
Well, the texts are pretty clear. It boils down to worldly attachment, specifically wanting fame, recognition, labha, and sakara. His ambition started to overshadow his actual spiritual goals.
Oh, okay.
He got incredibly envious of the Buddha, his status, the deep respect people had for him, the sheer scale of it all.
Like a kind of spiritual status envy. He didn't just want enlightenment. He wanted to be the top guy.
Precisely. He wanted to replace the Buddha, to be the head of the Sangha. And that's the split, right? Outwardly, he's a monk. Inwardly, it's all about me. I deserve this recognition.
And when he didn't get it.
That resentment just festered. And then it turned into, open hostility.
Okay, so hostility, that's where it starts getting really vicious. He couldn't achieve it subtly, so he moved towards what? Force. Politics.
Yeah, first move was political. He tried cozying up to the young Prince Ajatasattu, offered him spiritual advice, hoping to use the prince's power to, boost himself up and take control.
Did that work?
Initially, maybe some influence, but Ajatasattu eventually pulled back his support.
Yeah.
So that plan failed. And that left Devadatta basically with, violence.
Violence against the Buddha, his own cousin. That's extreme.
It is. And the first plot was assassination. He actually hired men to kill the Buddha.
Okay, how did that play out?
Well, this is fascinating. The sources say it failed not because of guards or anything physical. It failed because of the Buddha's presence.
What do you mean?
The assassins got close, ready to strike,
Right.
but they were just overwhelmed by his calmness, his total peace, that palpable nonviolence. Their murderous intent just dissolved.
Seriously.
Yeah, they ended up kneeling down, asking him to teach them the Dhamma instead. It's presented as, compassion being the ultimate shield.
That sounds almost unbelievable. Trained killers just switching like that.
Yeah.
Is there any, psychological explanation in the text beyond just Buddha magic?
Well, the idea is rooted in supreme virtue. A fully enlightened mind, radiating metta, unconditional loving kindness creates this field that malice just can't exist in. For people steeped in violence, hitting that wall of pure peace is like a shock, a spiritual wake-up call.
Okay. But Devadatta, he clearly wasn't getting that wake-up call.
Not at all. He wasn't deterred. His next attempt was much more direct, personal, the Vulture's Peak incident.
Right, the boulder.
Exactly. He pushed a huge rock down the mountain, aiming to crush the Buddha walking below.
Did it hit him?
The main boulder missed. But the texts make a point of saying a splinter flew off and hit the Buddha's foot. Drew blood.
Oof. And that's a big deal, right? Harming a Buddha.
A very big deal. It's seen as one of the heaviest negative karmas. It really showed how far gone Devadatta was. Utterly corrupted intent.
Okay, plot 1 fails, plot 2 fails, but draws blood. What's next? This is relentless.
Plot 3 is probably the most famous, almost legendary. The elephant, Nalagiri.
Yes, the intoxicated elephant.
Ferocious beast, deliberately enraged and drunk, unleashed right in the Buddha's path. A head-on charge.
And this was the ultimate test. Non-violence versus raw power.
Exactly. And again, the sources stress it was about the mind. The Buddha didn't flinch, didn't use force. He met this charging, raging animal with metta, pure, focused, loving
You
kindness.
just thought it at the elephant.
Essentially, yes. A powerful projection of calm and compassion.
And map it up. What happened?
The elephant just stopped mid-rampage, calmed right down, submitted to the Buddha's presence. It really cemented the idea for the Sangha. The Buddha's safety wasn't about external protection, it was his internal state. Spiritual force trumped physical violence every time.
Okay, so direct attacks fail, political moves fail. What's left for someone like Devadatta if you can't win physically?
You attack the foundation, the doctrine itself. You try to split the group from within.
Right. Shift strategy. Create division based on what? Spiritual one-upmanship.
Precisely. Since he couldn't destroy the Buddha's body, he tried to destroy the Sangha's unity. And his angle was clever. He positioned himself as more devout, more ascetic.
Not demanding easier rules, but stricter ones.
Exactly. Making the Buddha look lax. Well, he looks like the hardcore purist. He went to the Buddha and demanded 5 specific rules be made mandatory for everyone.
Okay, what were these 5 demands? Let's break that down.
It was basically a package of extreme asceticism. He demanded that all monks, mandatory, must, 1, live only in the forest their whole lives. 2, live only on alms food, never accepting invitations. 3, wear only rag robes made from discarded cloth. 4, live always at the foot of a tree, no proper shelters. And 5, refuse to eat any fish or meat, ever. A strict vegetarian diet, mandatory.
Why those specific rules? What was the underlying conflict there? He's trying to look pure, but what's the real issue?
Well, they challenged the balance the Buddha had set up. Take the food rule, refusing meat or fish. Monks relied on what lay people offered in good faith. Mandating vegetarianism puts a burden on supporters and goes against the principle of accepting what's offered, unless you saw the animal killed for you.
Right, it could alienate the very people supporting the monks.
Exactly, and insisting everyone live rough under trees in the forest. Well, that ignores health, different climates, the need for places to teach or study. It wasn't practical for everyone.
So Devadatta was appealing to a kind of spiritual pride. We're toucher than the rest.
That seems to be the angle. But the Buddha saw through it. He saw the pride, and crucially, the desire to create a rigid split hiding behind this call for stricter practice. So he refused to make them mandatory.
Just a flat no? How did he handle it?
This shows his wisdom, not a flat no. That was just played into Devadatta's hands, made the Buddha look soft.
Right.
Instead, the Buddha said, no, these won't be mandatory for everyone. He acknowledged extreme asceticism isn't right for all paths, flexibility is needed. But crucially, he said any monk who wanted to follow these stricter rules voluntarily, they were absolutely free to do so.
Oh, that's brilliant. It completely disarms Devadatta's main point.
Totally. It keeps the high ground of compassion and flexibility, allows for individual dedication, but denies Devadatta the power to force a rigid division on the whole community.
Still, Devadatta used the refusal as his excuse, didn't he?
He did. He basically said, see, the Buddha isn't pure enough. And he managed to convince a group of monks, mostly newer ones apparently, to follow him. He led them away and set up his own separate order. That was the schism.
But it didn't last, right? The history shows his split eventually failed.
Correct. The Sangha proved resilient. And again, the Buddha's approach was key. He didn't react with anger or force. Instead, he sent his 2 chief disciples, Sariputta and Moggallana, to go talk to the breakaway group.
Why those 2 specifically?
They were hugely respected for their wisdom, their deep understanding of the Dhamma. They went there and they didn't argue or demand. They taught.
Just explain the core teachings again.
Yes, reminded the monks of the principles, gently pointed out the ego driving Devadatta's actions, and through their clear, wise teaching, they convinced most of those monks to return. They saw the mistake and came back.
So the split just fizzled out, mostly?
Largely, yes. It underlines that core insight. Outward stuff like powers or super strict rules mean nothing if the mind, the intention, isn't pure.
And what happened to Devadatta in the end?
The texts say his final years were filled with regret, sickness, suffering, often seen as the direct result, the karma, of his actions fueled by hatred and pride.
When you trace it all back,
Yeah.
the violence, the demands, the power grab, it really all comes from that fundamental mistake, doesn't it? Believing in a solid fifth self,
Yeah.
an Anatta.
Absolutely.
He acted like there was this permanent I that deserved to be number one.
That's the ultimate lesson here. Devadatta's story is maybe the most powerful warning against the ego in the early texts. Even with significant spiritual achievements, that desire for recognition, for power, it can corrupt everything if you don't see through the illusion of self. He couldn't let go of I.
So looking back, you see the early Sangha facing this intense internal crisis, betrayal, assassination plots, a doctrinal split, and it holds together. Through wisdom, compassion, smart leadership, and just clear teaching. Remarkable stability.
And that's the takeaway for you listening now. It's a deep insight into how vigilant everyone has to be about ego. Devadatta had powers, years of practice, still fell hard to jealousy and pride. It's not just what you practice, but why. The intention is everything.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to maybe chew on. If that level of ambition could corrupt someone with psychic powers, what about the smaller, subtler forms of envy in our own lives? You know, needing credit at work, feeling slighted, that quiet belief that I deserve more. Could those subtle things be slowing your progress or maybe causing friction around you today? Something to explore.
Definitely something to think about. Until our next deep dive, keep exploring.